So as you discuss philosophy and science, you often hear people say things like, there's no evidence or proof, or where's the evidence, and so on. And what this shows you is that they have an idea of what counts as evidence. They have an implicit theory of knowledge. But in most cases, they haven't carefully examined this idea. That is, they haven't studied epistemology and worked out a strong understanding of knowledge and truth. And I think it's important to do this. I think it's important to develop an epistemology, a theory of knowledge and truth. Otherwise, you'll be a slave to the theories of knowledge and truth that just seem right, or that you assume, or that you inherit from someone. So this video is a brief exploration of what we mean by knowledge, what counts as evidence, and it presents an exercise that will help you begin to question and more deeply form your own epistemology. So this video will get your feet wet in epistemology, so to speak. But there's no substitute for reading an actual epistemology textbook, right? Okay, so first notice that knowledge is not just belief, since I could believe there are married bachelors or that the earth doesn't move. These beliefs are not knowledge because they're false beliefs. So knowledge is not just belief. Second, notice knowledge is not just true belief either, since I could have a true belief but have no justification, no good reasons for that belief. So for example, let's say Bob believes the earth is round because his mama told him so. This isn't knowledge since he lacks justification. He lacks good reasons for believing the earth is round. He's just appealing to mama. Now Sarah, on the other hand, she has knowledge that the earth is round because she believes it's round because she's seen photos from space, has read it in multiple science texts, has argued by analogy from the round shape of other planets, has observed the curved shadow during eclipses, and so on. She has knowledge of the Earth's spherical shape, whereas Bob doesn't. And then one more thing. Notice that when we say justification, we don't mean absolute justification. For example, I know there's a computer in front of me, even though I cannot absolutely prove it. I can't absolutely prove it because there's a possibility I may be in the matrix or a brain in the vat. In which case, there's not really a computer in front of me, just a simulation of one. So when we talk of justification, we aren't speaking of indubitable justification, but simply having good, strong reasons for holding your belief as true. Again, when we say knowledge, what most philosophers, going back to Plato, mean is justified true belief. This means that not only do you have a belief and that it's true, but that it's justified. You have good, strong reasons for believing it's true. Now there are problems with this definition that you can explore in an epistemology textbook, especially problems with this idea of justification. But for the purposes of this video, we can just use this strong and practical definition of knowledge as justified true belief. So now the questions that arise are, what counts as justification or good reasons? What types of reasons partially or fully justify a claim? And must all forms of knowledge be based on physical evidence, empirical, scientific evidence? Right? So this activity that we're about to do will help you sort out some of your ideas in these questions. Okay, so in this exercise, we're going to explain the type of evidence supporting each knowledge claim. So the first knowledge claim is the instant replay shows the football player's foot was out of bounds. Therefore, I know his foot was out of bounds. So this knowledge claim is based on physical, scientific, empirical evidence. I can see the instant replay and know his foot was out of bounds. Now again, I might be dreaming, so it's not like indubitable belief. It's not perfect knowledge. But I have very good reasons for believing his foot was out of bounds, so it's knowledge based on physical, scientific, empirical evidence. Number two, I don't know for sure that other people are conscious, but I know with certainty that I'm currently conscious. After all, how can I doubt I'm conscious when I'm thinking? This knowledge claim is based on introspection. I don't need science, math, or even logic to know I'm currently conscious, to know there's something it's like to be me right now. So there you have it. There's at least one form of knowledge, certain knowledge by the way, that is not based on our five senses. Scientists looking at me from the third person point of view know that I'm probably conscious because they see brain states, but I know with certainty I'm conscious, and I know this by closing my eyes and experiencing it introspectively. Again, this experience is not scientific because it's not verifiable by you and other scientists. The most you can say is I'm probably conscious, but only I know with certainty that I'm conscious. I know it by introspection. So again, this shows that some forms of knowledge are not based on science and just physical evidence. And by the way, this consciousness topic is one of the most interesting currently being discussed. Okay, number three, God either exists or does not exist. I know these are the only two options. So this is a logical belief, not a scientific one. There's a deep question here, though, about whether logic is presupposed by science or whether it's proven by science, and I think logic and math are presupposed by science, not proven by it. In a Kantian way, I believe many, but not all, logical and mathematical propositions, especially those that are foundational. Many, but not all of them, are grounded in our unchangeable software, the structures of our minds, so to speak. And to better understand this point, you can see my video entitled Introduction to Kant's Critique of Pure Reason, Part 1. But in short, for this knowledge claim, we have logical and mathematical forms of knowledge and evidence that are arguably not simply and solely generalizations from empirical experience. Okay, look at number 4. It's impossible to visualize a non-spatial object since visualization presupposes space. Now, I know this not because I've encountered a non-spatial object and failed to visualize it. Rather, I know it because visualization, or the ability to visualize, it presupposes the spatial existence of something. So right now, try to visualize a few things to see what I mean. Close your eyes and visualize a telephone. Notice it must be possible in principle for the telephone to exist in space if you visualize it, if you can visualize it. Now, I'm not saying there are non-spatial or non-temporal objects. I'm only saying that if there were, we wouldn't be able to visualize them. That is, I can focus on methodologies like visualization and know that some acts are impossible in principle within that methodology. And we can call this presuppositional or methodological knowledge. Visualization presupposes an object that can be visualized, an object in space. So imagine you have a toolbox. This is a nice metaphor for your mental tools, your ways of knowing. Some of your tools can perform functions that others can't. So we can say tool A cannot perform function B well, but it can perform function A well, and so on. The tools represent our methods for knowing. So the tools would have names like science. Science is like a hammer. Logic. Logic's like a screwdriver. Math, introspection, presupposition, and so on. Indeed, if I'm epistemically humble, I will possibly even recognize that there may be some tools we haven't even created yet. Okay, so nice metaphor for thinking about these different ways of knowing. Number 5, I feel happy. I know this in a way that is different from how you know I'm happy. So you look at me from a third-person point of view and see me smiling, laughing, clogging, drinking, and what have you, right? But I know it from a first-person point of view. There's something it's like to be me right now, drinking and clogging, and it's private. In short, I know it by introspection, if I know it at all. Look at number 6, 2 plus 2 equals 4, or space and time exist. Again, some mathematical truths are assumed, presupposed, or built in, so to speak. They're not proven by experience or science, right? Rather, they're applied to experience. They're validated, but not ultimately proven by it. They're presupposed for science and experience. Space and time, too, may be presuppositional forms of knowledge. I can't even imagine a world without space and time. They're unfalsifiable. But it still seems like I have knowledge that there's space and time. But how can I know that the books on the table unless I know things exist in space and time? So it's presuppositional knowledge. Number 7 is I look happy. We can know this by looking. It's a form of physical evidence. Number 8 is there's no married bachelors or four-sided triangles. So you could think of this as another form of methodological or presuppositional knowledge. When I understand the parameters of triangularity or bachelor, I know without observing the physical world that there are no married bachelors or four-sided triangles. So you could think of this type of knowledge as a verbal game, as a semantic knowledge, or as presuppositional or methodological. And then number 9 and 10, there's some disagreement on number 9. You can ponder these two if you like. Are you certain every event has a cause? And if so, how can you be certain since you haven't observed every event? And if you are certain of it, you must know it in a different way than observation. So how is it known, right? So what's the bottom line here? Well, knowledge is based on evidence, but not all evidence is physical or observable. Some forms of evidence are introspective, logical, mathematical, semantic, intuitional, or presuppositional. So to better understand knowledge claims, we need to examine the type of evidence at work in its relevance to the type of knowledge claim. Metaphorically, we need to examine the tools that are being used and the type of project we're doing. So if you believe all things are nails, then all you need is a hammer. But the problem is not all things are nails, right? So this is the introduction to epistemology. It's a fascinating field of inquiry. What is knowledge? What is truth? What counts as evidence? And most of us stumble through life with unexamined answers to these questions. But a good epistemology textbook is like Socrates. It helps us see that we don't know what we thought we knew about knowing. Knowledge is based on evidence, but not necessarily physical, scientific, or empirical evidence. Not all the time. There are many types of evidence we can use to justify true beliefs. Thanks.